are back and ready to kickstart our first men's panel on Open Your Eyes. And it's a great opportunity for us to start a conversation about how men see things in our society today, ranging from everything from family to national issues, and just understanding what we can do to perhaps improve things for younger boys growing up. We have with us on set a very interesting mix of persons. We have Ashton Coleman, who is a graphic designer and an online talk show host. We have next to him Jonathan Vellos, who is a multimedia professional. And over on my right, we have Fermin, Olivera, no stranger to us here at Channel 5. And of course, he is a social worker and a professional counselor. And on the end, we have community activist Edmond Staine. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. So I hope that we're feeling extremely talkative today. Is that the case?
Well, I found it strange when I got the invitation to participate, and wondering the kinds of what they ask at least me to think about, and I said, this will be interesting.
Well, this is interesting, and I could probably use that as a launching point. I was telling Edmond before we started that essentially it's sharing your views from a male perspective. We know that men and women see things very differently. Yeah. We know everything about our environment or background or upbringing influences how we function as adults. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Edmond he has all the experience for the 30-something years that he has been a male in our society. But you had an interesting answer. Would you like to share that?
Well, I mean, I think I became a man when I had my first girl, my first baby. At that point, before that, I was like, of course, I was a focused person. For one tranche of my life, when I shift over to being a positive person at that point, but the responsibility really came down, and my mindset really changed, and I became more focused when I had my first baby. Yeah. That was what transformed my entire mentality from there.
Yeah. Now, I want to start off with something very broad, and you can share your own individual thoughts on this. In this day and age, what are the defining characteristics of manhood?
Characteristics. Well, characteristics is kind of like what you're hearing, the voice. If you think about it, those are general things. If you think about physiologically, just your human development, they will tell you for men what happens, the broadening of the shoulders, the thickening of the voice, that kind of thing. But I think the gentleman here next to me just kind of said it in a way. It differs for different people. When do you become a man? And for him, it was a psychological change. It's something happened. While others say, no, it's a physical change or a combination of these. The truth is, it is not clear. And more as we get into gender situations, you find out that it starts to vary. It starts to challenge the normal ways or characteristics that we normally associate with manhood. So, I think that has been evolving, changing a little bit, or by great amount. So it's difficult to pin. Yeah. Certain things are a little bit clearer, like the sexes, what's male, what's female. That's all. But the characteristics. Then, what is it? Is it that you go to work, that you provide? What is it? Yeah. So. Just food for thought,
Absolutely, but you clearly had to make those definitions for yourself. When you see a child that's 5 years old and you say, "Meet a man," you correct him. So at what point does he become a man?
Right. I think I have what I have kind of learned or gathered from society is when a boy is growing up and they hit maybe about 18, 19 years, it seems to me that most of the other men feel like you become a man when they hand you your first beer. You start to drink. Yeah. Or, the kind of language that sometimes men use. Or sometimes it's a case where these persons have more than one female. So you're in a relationship and, when the men, they get together at whatever location, then they say, I have this person and I have that person, and then of course all of them go and they pat each other on the back. So it's been my experience that the perception in society of what is manhood or masculinity is a distorted point of view. And what it really does is it causes men to have difficulty when they enter into relationships when they get older, because they have a wrong point of view. Like, for example, the dissemination of responsibilities in the home, how much they are willing to assist the wife in the home. Maybe they feel like that the house is a woman's responsibility, and his responsibility is just to bring home the money. So we really have to really take a serious look at really what it means to be a man, so that we can have successful relationships, because relationships, successful marriages build successful families. It sets a good example for the children, and it benefits society as a whole. So many broken homes out there, and we're talking from a male point of view, but honestly it affects women as well, because they don't know what really to look for, and so they look for the wrong type of man, or the man looks for the wrong type of woman, and so you end up with sometimes they have a starry-eyed idea of, okay, this is how the relationship is going to work out, but soon it ends up into separation and problems because they just had different expectations, and those expectations weren't met.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I'm sitting here thinking of, as women, when we grow up, we look at perhaps our mothers to kind of understand how you maneuver through life as a female, or as an adult female. Where did you get your influence as to what a man should be like?
Well, for kind of what the gentleman was saying, just think about this, Marlene. We men have a difficult time conceptualizing when you become a man. Just imagine that. So you have some personal, internal situations, and then you will share yourself with someone else. Just imagine the complexity that goes into sustaining, maintaining a relationship. And I think he's absolutely right. This adds to that complex situation, and it festers into terrible, hurtful, painful relationships, if you think about it that way. But to answer your question specifically, of course, the role models come, at least from my perspective, it comes from the men around you.
Yeah.
And I was very, very lucky, to have a father, one. Although the relationship between a boy and a father when I was growing up, while it was clear that you had your chores that were different from my sister's chores, if you think about it. So that he started to guide that process. And then, of course, I had an older brother who, 4 or 5 years doesn't seem like a lot when you're young, but when you're a teenager, that's a big thing. And then I could look up to him as that. Then, of course, he was having, I guess, his own development. Yeah, but the idea of manhood came around lots of, partying, socializing, going to clubs. I don't know that much has changed in that direction. But you're looking up to, as a matter of fact, I remember my brother kind of holding your hand into this journey of becoming a man. And it was up to the time. So yes, you have to look. This is not something I don't know if I can say that, but at least I had some type of persons or people, my friends, the men, the young men in my neighborhood who had that little age gap. And I think it's a learning process. It's a learning process that, of course, we are talking 14, 15, 16 into young, just teenage years. And this continues to evolve. And the trick is that the evolution doesn't stop. Here I am, still evolving in that capacity when you think about it.
Ashton, let's hear your thoughts. You are in your 20s, and I think one of the things that we hear very often these days is, one, the concern of absent fathers, and secondly, the influencers that we choose, which could be music, it could be any other profession that you look at. What do you think helps to shape your identity as a man? Who influences you in that way?
I think just basically your surroundings that will shape you to what you are becoming. Well, for me, if I don't want to talk,
however you feel comfortable.
For me, I had a father who would basically had to just work to provide for me, you understand? So it was very different for me. I never really had him around. So basically, I shaped myself, if you really think about it, because I just try to learn different things. And you know, a lot of people got this perspective that you need a father around for shape you, but that's not really true. Because just your general surroundings, and if you have a goal in mind, if you had something like, man, you really focus on that, you don't really need somebody for try and shape you for do that. If you have a focus and you have a goal, like if you like something, you really like something, you will put your interest in that. You understand? Of course, there will be people around you and will try to pull you that way and pull you the other way, but you have to get your mentality set that, okay, this is what I want to do. You understand? Regardless of who is around you. You understand? So basically my shaping and my way I built myself is just by learning different things and, you know, try to stay away from the bad stuff.
Can I add something to that? Because that's like similar to the situation that I grew up in. You know, we grew up in Fabergé, and it's like many of the guys that I grew up with, they don't even have a dad. Some of them, their dad died. Some of them, their dad is not around. Like for me personally, I was kicked out of the house when I was 14 years old. So we, like a group of us as boys, we had to like grow up together. And like you speak about influencers, when you're in certain societies where it's like gang-related, gang influence, the influencers become the guys that are the ones that are leaders within the society, be it good or bad. And a lot of the good things about my qualities are qualities that I taken from the guys that people think are bad. You know, the things that they have been doing, because I mean,
that's interesting.
for example, the first human drive that we had, it was the guys that are on the corners that people are seeing that are selling weed, for example, that they say is a bad thing, is a bad guy. Those are the guys that sponsored the first human drive that we had. You know, and they are the ones that every year, boy, I'm going to sue you know, we're pushing something. And it's like, when I look at it, because most of us, we use, like for me, example, I was the only one that stayed in school out of all of us that used to hang out at that time, right? Which is a bad thing, right? But it became good because I have the opportunity now to help the people that are around me, right? So at that time, you know, I saw, and I wanted to stop school when all the others were stopping school, and the guy that was in charge of the block took me to school. I'm getting emotional because he's dead now, right? But he took me to school every day in the morning, but didn't allow me to stop school. You know, and that time I was about to quit because we was in gang influences, about to get in fights and other things at school. You know, police had to come and guard us at school and other things. You know, and it was frustrating at that time for us. You know, I was like, you know, I'm done with this. I'm going to sell weed on the block, or you know, something, you know, at that time. And those are the people that stopped me from stop school. And even the people right now the society look up to, a lot of them don't even support the things that we do. And a lot of things that we do is to help the kids, you know, and we're putting our hearts in it, but we have to go and bang down their doors, and the people that are the ones that they look at and they stereotype are the ones that come up to us and help us. So it's key what you said. You have to take the good things out of people, because I had a lot of mentors, you know, but a lot of my mentors are people that people will look down on. They won't even, I mean, some of my mentors are people on the side of the street that are street vendors, people that are beggars, and they come to me and say, boy, you look like you do something good, you know. I want to support you, I want to encourage you. And those are the things that I take. You know, and that's why it's important to look at the good things in people and try to find how you can use that. Because I'm telling you, I had to have an internal locus of control all the time. The easiest thing for me to do, and up to now, is the bad thing. So for us to overcome that and to try to fight off all the things that are keeping us back, because I'm working in the corporate world right now, and I'm still being stereotyped up to now. And you know why I keep my profile as somebody that's affiliated with the people down there? Because I want to prove to everybody that we can do this. You know, I mean, there are people that can come from down there and can end up all the way to the top. You know, and that's exactly why I keep that personality. That's why I'm happy you said that, because you know, it's important for us to look that way. You know?
Wow. Now, you know, there's a couple of things that you said that really stood out to me, but I wanted you to perhaps use it as a part of your experience that you're engaged in now. You know, I know that you mentor some of the kids. You do a trimming drive, but you actually mentor the kids throughout the course of the year as well. You know, what are some of the lessons that you teach them? Understanding exactly what you're saying, where the circumstances make the path that takes you out of school, perhaps engaging in activities you shouldn't, that seems to be the easier one. How do you relay that message to younger ones now?
Well, I mean, I can just look at the core of what the transformation entails, and it boils down to education. And as long as you find ways of, I mean, I shouldn't say education, I should say knowledge, because in the education system as it is right now is not conducive to a lot of the millennials, because a lot of the millennials want to use their hands, do multimedia, use technology, you know, and the education system we have right now, basically, just to be blunt, teaches us how to find a job. And I went all the way up to UB, and I studied all the way up, and nothing that I studied taught me how to make money off of what I'm studying. And that's what I think needs to be the shift. And it would help us because these young people right now, everybody wants to make money. Right now I talk to a lot of politicians and they come to me and say, boy, nobody lazy, nobody no want money. And me, I'm one of them, and I could take 50 young men from Faber's Road right now, go work anywhere I want them to work, and they work hard, and they know the rules. They can't smoke weed on the job site, they have to come early. I lock the gate when they come in. They don't get paid if they don't work fully, and these are the skills that anybody needs for people to work. But it's just like, we don't get any second chance. Right now you want to get a job, you have to get a police record, right? Okay, but what if you were associated with somebody in a vehicle hanging out, and somebody went to do a move, you're a young, 17 years old kid, you have a record now. You get blamed to do something. You want to find a job now. You get rehabilitated, which should be the system that we should work through. You're fully rehabilitated. You want to get back into society. You go for a job. You're excited about this job. You have a record. You're not getting that job. So what are they forcing you to do? To stay in that society, stay in that system until you die or go to jail? So there's a lot of things that work against the young people. So you have to really overcome that. Have somebody that believes in you personally to give you that break. And that's what helped me. Because I could tell you, for example, I was in primary school. I came in second in primary school, and I wanted to go to St. John's so because we were football players at the time, right? And they took everybody, and they didn't accept me because of my behavior. And I learned from that, you know. But what they could have done for me? They could have brought me in and said, young man, I know you have an issue. I know that you have problems, but we're going to work with you. We're going to get you in this school, and I would have fought to stay in the school because then I was excited to be there. Similarly, now, I'm a man now. They have kids that probably went through a lot of issues, probably went through problems. They don't have any parents at home, but no, they go for a job. Instead of somebody try to reach out to them and give them an opportunity to prove themselves, they get shut out at the first instance. So then what that causes these people to do, they get rebellious. They want to get back in the street, and, you know. So you don't get opportunity to something that really makes a difference, guys.
Yeah,
you know, you have to do that.
That's such a power. I mean, you said a mouthful there, but I think it really taps into part of the core of the issue that prompted our conversation. You know, if you look at today's era, it's a bit of a conundrum specifically for Belize. There's a very active, well overdue movement of getting gender equity in play, which means women should be given women should be eligible to progress the same way that men do in society. And that's great, especially in an international realm, and we see it even more so in our decision-making realm. But then there's the opposite end of the spectrum, and we have heavy weights on both sides. So we see a lack of female leadership, but we also see a number of a good population of young boys and young men who need additional support. Yeah. Talk to me about your perspectives on this. While we're talking about gender equity on one side, we're also talking about some of the basic needs. Keep boys in school, give them a good male mentor, offer them nurturing support. A lot of times when you talk about crime, the influence of the mother and parenting and all these things are so important.
Let me just say this, Marlene, that over the years, unfortunately, there appears to be a cultural shift in Belize and probably in other Caribbean countries as well. But this is where I live. This is where, to me, it's more pronounced for me. And the cultural shift has to be kind of like an emergence, a tolerance to a little bit of say, deviance behavior. And everybody, even developmentally, it is expected that puberty years will be challenging years. This is nothing new. But this is a time that is critical for young persons. And I think lots of things have been said here. And I think we have inherited a conformist type of education, one that prepares us to serve, one that prepares us to not to exploit the creativity of our gifts, but just to conform. You know, and that is true. People will say otherwise, but so that deviance is not taken into context like what was said. You know, I will put extra to help support these young kids in the fringes. Let me tell you, there is brilliance in kids that are a little bit rebellious. As a matter of fact, they're fighting to survive. And in this context here, you find artists, musicians, sports persons. They're great at these things, but we haven't had the wherewithal to take this group of people. Not everybody is meant for academic, but everybody will tell you that, oh, you need to, yes, education, but it's limited to just school and maybe university. But education is way much more, many more things than that. It's about skills, it's about what can you do to develop marketable skills? So,
Yeah.
so lots has been said, but yeah, we aren't good. Our education system has lacked them.
One
in
thing that
respect.
just keeps on popping out to me, you know, I think sometimes poverty triggers a survival instinct that leads us to be the greatest innovators that you can think of.
Absolutely.
Think of all the makeshift basketball courts that you've made, or even the balls itself,
The toys that
or
you create.
toys,
Bicycle
or
ring.
circumventing things in the house.
Yeah.
The poverty, the need sometimes really drives you to think completely outside of the box and be able to create. And I think that's one of the things that you mentioned that we really don't talk about enough. But Ashton, you wanted to weigh in, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, for example, the education system. Let's say you go to school, from primary school to high school, sixth form. But when you go for a job, you have to learn everything over, like basically everything what you learn through school. Like it doesn't apply to any job where you go, any job you apply for, any job that you get. When you go to you actually don't know anything about the job. You have to learn everything over. So basically, all throughout school,
Not prepared.
you know, prepare you for nothing but forget the job, like where my guy said. And just to add to what you said, which is very true, a lot of Belizeans out here have some brilliant ideas. Brilliant ideas, but there's no way to take that idea and develop that idea. If you, like for example, I came up with the idea for the Belize DJ championship that they have right now. But nobody really know that it was my idea because I presented it. If I had someone that, you know, which in Shine Barrow did invest to make it happen. But if you have like a different place, like let's say they built a company where people could go and take the ideas. Like in America, they have this place, Invent Help, where you could take that idea and maybe you could get someone to invest in it, or if they don't want to invest in it, if you want to sell your idea,
Yeah.
that would be something very helpful in Belize, you understand?
But Ashton, you're a great example because, you know, you're the youngest of the group. So you're maneuvering in a whole different time with social media and all the technology that exists. But even more so, you're choosing from very young to go an alternative route. You created a space for yourself, hosting an online talk show, which is still very novel in Belize.
Yeah. With the Real Talk Show, which is the name, by the way, the thing is, I just wanted a platform where people could come and be themselves, you know. If you really check it with most of like the radios and stuff, you could go there, but you're very limited to what you could say. You understand? Because I play on the radio, I DJ on a couple of the radio stations already, and most of them very politically affiliated, if you want to say that. So you only could be like, you're very one-sided to whichever radio station you go on. So my whole thing is like, man, like, why we have to be like that, you know? Like you could never come on a radio station and be yourself and say what you want to say, you know, and feel comfortable because they're so politically affiliated that you have to, if you know to say what they want you to say,
Shut you out.
you understand what I'm saying? So my whole thing was, okay, I will build my own thing. I created. A lot of people see social media as just for come up there and put up your pictures and videos and stuff like that. But social media is powerful. More powerful than any radio, any TV. Social media is the biggest thing right now, and I think a lot of people don't really take advantage of it. So my whole thing is like, man, I could use this platform and just create something. And man, it just blow up beautiful. Like, man, so much artists come through and they're like, yo, I never been to a show like this. I could say where I want, I could do what I want. You know, it just give people a platform for being themselves and be free.
Yeah.
You understand?
But tapping into the idea of venturing into something so new. I mean, did you have support? I'm sure your parents were saying, listen, you're going to school, go find a job, make some money. You got married, you have to support your wife.
Well, you see, the thing is with me, I'm the type of person my wife don't have to worry because she know at the end of the day, I will come up with something that we will survive very well. And thank God I blessed that I'm very good at graphic designing and creating flyers and banners and stuff like that. So that is like my weekly day job, if you want to call it that. And the good thing about this, a lot of people feel like you need education for do everything, but to be honest, you don't. You just have to take the idea that you have in your head, and I believe that everybody gifted in some kind of way. You take that idea you have and you grow it, you create it, you practice till you get big. You do what you have to do, but you don't need to work with the system. You just need to use that idea, that brilliance that God give you, that talent, and everybody have one.
Yeah.
Use that, create from it, build upon it.
I think he's absolutely right,
Yeah.
Marlene, and I think this is, kind of just want to share with them and with maybe a couple of our listeners. Here we have the future, the future, the youth, that the millennials, the people that are very different from people from my generation and worse, people from my dad's generation. But what happened, the platform that these young person, that this new group of people is working from, is outdated. Listen, we have allowed, I think young people have allowed and really are not taking their rightful place at the moment to take advantage of the political, when I say political in the broad context of governance. So you will forever be struggling. We need young people to take up the reins, young people with the new ideas. That's the way how a transformation can happen. Listen, you have old horse, the wrong with on young jockeys trying to ride old horse for run. So think about what will happen.
The thing is, a lot of the older heads will tell you that you need to live this certain kind of way. You need to go through the system to be successful, but that's not true. You understand? They want you to think like, yo, like, man, I have to go this way. I mean, I'm not saying not go to school and learn to read and write. You understand? You should learn, go and learn to read and write, but you don't need to make you feel like, man, like I have to do this. I have to go to sixth form. Gotta go. I mean,
forcing yourself to conform.
Maybe we should actually advocate for them expanding the school curriculum to accommodate some of the newer type of.
We're not expanding. We need to cut down the school curriculum. If you ask me.
This is one of the things that we have heard before. Boys will fall out of school progressively up until tertiary level. They're the smallest
group.
So as they matriculate, as they move up in school, you lose less. You lose more and more boys as you go along. And I can't remember the statistics, but we all know this is the case. So you'll have a class where maybe you got 3 males in a full class of females at the university. So something in the education system perhaps is not captivating them. That's what many people assume to be the problem. But what I'm hearing from you is that perhaps it's not that it isn't captivating them, it's perhaps that they just have a different interest or a different way of learning. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I think we kind of missed the boat in general, guys. I mean, for example, the leadership of what is going on. Because when we started off doing IA, it was just because of a research that we did, and we found out the same thing that you were saying, that every single body around me had a specific talent. One could take down a motorcycle from top to bottom, one can do construction, but they don't have the ability to put it together. And that's why I was dragged in, because Brian just came to me, he had the idea about the Children Drive. He came to me and said, well, I need this to happen. And I said, okay, we put it in a structure, but I was fortunate enough to be able to understand things structurally and do it different. So much so now that we want to make this thing into a full NGO and show, you said political, show the politicians how it should be done. Where there's nobody quantifying the situation, meaning using a demographic data to say, okay, we have this percentage of the people that are unemployed, this percentage of the people that have this education level, this certain people that have single parent families. So there's nobody taking this demographic data and say, okay, I'm going to have a project that's going to work on this percentage and that percentage of whatever issue it is, and then see how we can combat it from start to bottom, looking at the skill set of the people and what they like to do and what they're able to do, and then moving it towards entrepreneurship where people can be independent, and looking at creating factories that can employ masses of people. Because how many people unemployed at Belize, brother? We're not 1 million people. You understand? So we could look at Guatemala, look at Chetumal everywhere and see huge factories that employ thousands of people. And they're smarter than we in Belize. We can think about how to do things like that. So these are the type of things, guys, that as young people, we have to do differently this time. We can't look at, okay, we have our $300 million. I'm not political, right? $300 million we're going to use as capital. We are paving roads. We can build industries to do that. You understand? So these are some of the ideas.
And feel free to chime in, Jonathan. I know you're...
This is how I see things, because I'm from there and we feel it. You understand? And all we do is squeeze more. But it's the same money circulating within the system. So we have to create where we pump more money into the system. So everybody in Belize could be rich, but it's on 300,000 people. You understand?
Marlene, let me give you an idea here. I beg anybody, or I can challenge anyone. Just the other day, when I say the other day, a couple of years ago, there was a big move in putting computer labs in the schools, primary schools. Let me be honest with you. I would say about 50% of computer labs in all our schools are defunct, meaning nobody's using it. So, okay, we gave out so many schools with computer lab. There is a resistance to newness. That is nothing new in our human reality. The reality is that technology is here. We probably can't do without a certain technology today, but not everybody is embracing change. So while there was this move to, we're still not competing. I mean, a school can have it, but how many children are having access to? Because there's a resistance throughout. I teach at the University of Belize.
You mean from the education system?
Yeah, education system. And we have to grapple, we have to adapt to the idea of, say, cell phone. Now, for me in particular, I don't care if students come in and have their cell phones. I do care that they will do things that can interrupt the class. That's a completely different matter. But I don't think it's my rightful place to say, all right, put your cell phones off or put it on vibrate. This is an adult situation. For example, there is this other way we take attendance at the University of Belize. Frankly, I shouldn't give one cahoots who comes or doesn't come. These are adults paying. At the end of the day, we have systems in place. You take tests, take exam, you will pass or you will fail, but we have this conforming idea. It's like you're adult, but you're still a child. When do you actually
even in the
become...
workplace, you see that.
Yeah. We have to evolve. Instead of more restrictions, we say, we'll pay you to get this done. If you're a secretary and all on whatever, we need to find different and effective ways to account for labor. I mean, and telephone and people on, addiction today is not even associated with substance use. It's associated with technology, computer addiction, you call it, right? So there is a challenge, but people will overcome this as well. But we will overcome it quicker if we allow the space for it to happen. But we tend to repress and suppress instead of affording people the space to learn the technology. Listen, just before we had public phones. Before cell phones, the novelty was public phones. So put public phones and there was people will crash. Yes, a few phones were broken, but public phones are obsolete now.
Yeah.
When will we learn not to be afraid of new things, but to be open to the idea that people change. And that's maybe the one constant in life, that people change and we must adapt. Just like we must adapt and change in our relationship if those things will survive. Change.
Can I add something? And this is kind of interesting. It's an experience that I had. I had the chance to travel to Grand Cayman many years ago, and we were working on an album over there. And some of the things that you're talking about, I really think it's cultural, because so we're over there and we're walking with a radio personality from Trinidad, and so we're just walking along the street, and this guy, he's able to sing as well, so he's very popular in Trinidad. And so we're walking down the street and this guy is singing out loud. He's not singing softly to himself, he's singing out loud, and we're walking in a populated area along the street, and nobody to the left or the right of me is paying any attention to him. And I said to myself, if he would try that in Belize, every single person would turn around and look at him as if, you are doing something strange out of the ordinary to try to make this guy feel uncomfortable. And so, I think that one of the problems that we have in this country, and that's why I really appreciate, what Ashton, what he's doing, because you're going against the grain. When for some reason when we're outside of Belize, I don't know if many of us who have had the chance to travel outside of Belize, it's a totally different atmosphere. Certain things that you would never ever do in Belize, the way you dress, some of the things that you would try to do, you would never try in Belize because there's just this atmosphere of pressure on you to conform, never to step out. And so even the path that I took when I went to school, I didn't know what I wanted to be.
Sure.
Right? And I think that's one of the failures in the educational system, because you reach second form and it's like, okay,
Pick
choose
your
your
path.
course in life.
Yeah.
What are you going to study? What if you don't know?
Yeah.
Right? And then
It's giving a taste of everything for you to discover.
those individuals who already know what they want to be, you find that they're able to maximize the opportunity that they have. They progress forward, they put forth that effort. But if you don't have a focus, if you don't have something that you can say, man, this is something that I'm passionate about, then how can you really put forth the effort and the energy and the discipline that you need in order to take advantage of that?
Yeah.
When I was young, my dad, he went to Japan to study camera. And so when I was growing up, we had cameras around the house, and I picked up the camera and I started to shoot, and I started directing my other cousins. Praise God, I had a lot of cousins in the yard. We lived in a big yard, and we had 3 houses.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of my cousins there, and I would tell them, okay, you're gonna be this person and you're gonna be that person. And this is what you're gonna say, and you're gonna say this, and this is what we're gonna do this. And so interestingly, Marlene, so I did that when I was young. When I grew up and I finished sixth form, and I still didn't know what I wanted to be. And so for the sake of time, I won't get into where I got my first job, but I ended up doing the very thing that I had a lot of fun and I found enjoyment when I was so small. I ended up shooting using the same camera in the area of the arts.
Wow.
Nice. And I think that's one of the failures of the educational system. That's why I admire Cuba in that respect, and I think even Jamaica in that respect, because they look for that thing in you that you're passionate about. I met a young lady who was working in a kind of like a desk job. She was working, and I asked her about her work, and she said, work is work. Work is work. So I asked her, I said, tell me something. If you could do anything in life, if you could pick anything that you wanted to do, what would it be? And she said she wanted to be a stewardess on an airline. So I told her, so what's stopping you? She said she doesn't know this person, she doesn't know that person. I said, but if you never ever, take a leap of faith, you will never find out. Life is too short.
The answer is always no if you don't try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is too short.
So, I hear something similar here that I wanted to pull out, and that was talking about, you were saying that you become a different person when you're outside of Belize, and you were talking about resistance to change. I'm going to ask a question, we'll take a break, and then you can come back with your responses. But one of the things we haven't really touched on is perhaps your own reflections on how we're socializing, or men in society, or boys in society, and how it impacts your own development. What you were told as a little boy, what you are telling little boys that you interact with, and how that impacts the man that you become. We'll answer that question after the break. Please stay tuned.
If you're looking for low-cost television advertising, have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you save valuable time and money. Call us today at 223-0146 or visit us at our offices on Pony Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
right, we are back. And if you're just joining us, of course, we're moving into our second segment. We put together a pretty insightful group of men, Belizean men, talking about a number of issues exclusively from the male perspective. I'm just guiding it along here. I realize I'm excluded. But I mean, I think the perspectives you share are so unique. And one of the things I think it's important for us to tap into is what we teach boys from a young age. And I want to start off by just hearing what you were told, and just especially how much it influenced you growing up.
Well, Marlene, let me just quickly, I know in the break we're chit-chatting about a couple of things, but maybe this is a little, to me, it's very important. I think as a young boy, the idea of enjoying your sexuality, that was big. I recognize that.
It was a critical part of your role as a man. It was a critical
part of your role as a man.
I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. When I say I figured, because we don't talk about this in a broad social context. That as a young boy growing up, and this was very pervasive, there was almost a rites of passage, and I think somebody talked about it, relationships. So, but as a boy, very early. And I think if the statistics are kind of true, we know that when a boy that's 13, 14 would have masturbated at that age, very early.
Yeah.
Now, how then, of course, as a young man growing up, you have to navigate that reality among the norms of society, religious ideas, and all these things.
Yeah.
So I had a fair share of dating relationships as a young man. And as we go along, then you think, here your children come around. And I was thinking, how can I help my children, 2 boys and 1 girl, to enjoy that very important aspect of the human experience, which is your human sexuality. Mm-hmm. And I realized that there were different rules for boys and different rules for girls. However, I said, let me throw this out, because I have always wanted and talk about gender equality and equity. Mm-hmm. It's just rightful that we do what we can for women to have a rightful experience, that good experience, enjoying such a fundamental and important part of our human reality.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, and I have tried to navigate.
And I think even when you think of teenage years, this is an assumption, I'm a female, that is a clear part of your identity growing up, how much experience you have.
Right.
But what you're saying is that this is something that was inculcated from a very young age.
Very young age.
What type of messages did you hear to make you realize that this is a part of my marker as a man? What type of messages would you have heard?
Well, the message is an active encouragement to go on date, to have girlfriends, to have a girlfriend. And this was
have more than one.
Well, maybe not so clear, but they were clear that a certain age came when you can't be single. And single in that context meant you didn't have that one friend, in my case, that one girl that you were having, say, a sexual relation with. And and this is your friends and the guys were there. Actually, our trips and visits was all around that sexual possibility.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Yeah. Jonathan is completely thrown by the direction you went.
I definitely didn't expect that. That's an interesting point of view. But I guess I'll touch on my one. I hope we come back to that topic. But for me, when I was growing up, one of the things that my dad really instilled in me was the whole value of integrity. Mm. And you know, the way a father raises his son is based on the experiences that he has had. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, like honesty, was something that was really, really big for my dad. You could do other things, you could make other mistakes, but don't dare lie to him.
Yeah.
And don't try to insult his intelligence.
Yeah.
I remember the statement very well. You think I fool? Uh-huh. And he said with a very, very serious face, and that was real trouble, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say that really kind of marked my time with my dad, because his father wasn't really hands-on with him, and because he was the oldest, he didn't really spend a lot of time with the family. Because he was older, he left. I think they used to live in Corozal, and he went to SJC in Belize City away from. So that closeness, that, you know, that hand on the back, that love of
The
a father,
nurturing
that
role.
nurturing aspect, he didn't really experience that a lot. And even when I was growing up, I really had a lot of pent-up resentment towards my dad, because I felt like when I was growing up, I really wanted him there to spend more time with me. And because he didn't, I was like, okay, like I told myself, well, because you're not spending time with me, when you want to spend time with me, I won't be there.
Yeah.
And so during my teenage years, I was very isolated. And I didn't really spend a lot of time with my dad until one day my mom came to me. I think I was maybe 17 years old, 18 years old. And she told me, said, son, you know, your dad feels like he doesn't even have a son. And you know, that really hit me hard, you know. And and then she told me certain things. She said, man, like, how can you expect your dad, how can you expect your father to be able to treat you in a certain way or give you certain things that he never had when he was growing up? And so it caused me to take a step back. And I started to look at my dad in a different way. And it's like, man, I had compassion for my dad, and I let go a lot of that resentment and stuff, and that really started to build a closeness with my dad, you know.
I am so glad you touched on that, because that's one of the things I was thinking of. In fact, we just did a story last week together on how you supported your wife through her breastfeeding journey by taking care of the house and the other kids, because you adapted that nurturing role where oftentimes men don't. And that's part of the messaging that you hear often as boys. The woman take care of the house. The woman take care of the food. You provide. And if you fall down, don't cry. Shake it off, because boys don't cry. What else do you hear? Because these are messages that we know take place, but also, and I'm sure Fermin will be the best one to explain it, go against the human nature of any person. You know, we have pain, we have emotional pain, physical pain. We need to find ways to process it. And oftentimes it seems like we don't teach our boys how to do that. When your guy friends have a bad day, what they want to finish the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, take our Guinness.
Yeah?
Take our Guinness. From my perspective, it's kind of unique, because when I was young, as a young kid, my dad was always around us. And then, like, as we grew older, we kind of had that distance between us. And we actually grew up with the people around us, the society being the ones to give us these messages that we were hearing, like, to actually read into.
Yeah, it's not just from men, it's from everybody.
And from where I come from, it's totally different, because you don't have the option of being soft. As you're soft, you get bullied, right? And you don't have the option of being emotional or thinking to adapt towards anything towards that thing. Up to now, I have friends that I grew up with that certain things I don't even explain to them, because they're like, it comes off, and oh, you try to play, you be soft, or you try, you know? So like you have to try to find that place where you can actually have an outlet to speak to somebody or to get things out.
That's important.
And yeah, I mean, that's real. And as a kid growing up, you don't have a time to even think about stresses or something that's pressuring you, and then you end up being rebellious. Because a lot of people that know me from primary school say, "Boy, you used to get out of trouble at school and this and that, and embarrass the parents and all kind of thing." And I think about it now, like I was yielding for attention, because a lot of things that I missed out on. For example, I was going to go to spelling bee at the time, but because I get in a fight at school, I couldn't go represent. And we used to have the little readers in the classroom, so we listening to all the answers, and I could have answered all the questions. You know, that hurt me the most, not being able to go to St. John's, like I mentioned earlier, because I wanted to go play on their football team and all my other friends and so on. That hurt me the most. So I had to learn the hard way, not getting these subtle messages from a young age, to how to have patience and how to be kind and not telling lies and not doing all the bad things, you know. And sometimes the church helps, but even at church, sometimes you get wrong messages and so on as a kid, you know. Really, I mean, I'm being honest here. And for me personally, to be able to see it, I had to learn from people's mistakes. When I see people in my society that are addicted to drinking, they just can't work hard the whole week, and as they get and pay and drink out and pay tomorrow and broke. No, I learned not to develop that habit, because then if I have that habit, then I won't get to where I want to get to. Yeah. When I see people on drugs, then they want to, all they focus on is drugs, or people womanizing, because that was part of the reason why my dad wasn't there with us all the time. You know what I mean? And I learned now that, you know what, I don't want to be caught in that, because I know what it leads to. But as an individual, growing up where I came up, you had to actually find those messages. You know, if you have a dad that's there for you and telling you everything. Like my dad, I learned from him how to work hard. He's a hardworking guy. But if I take
Kinda
all the
could.
things that he does and all the things that he's been doing at that time and say,
Yeah.
okay, that's how I want to live my life, then I won't end up how I really want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, sorry.
But how did you learn to develop the soft skills that you said you weren't exposed to? Because let's bring in another scientific fact here. When it comes to suicides, men are more successful with suicides.
Successful?
Successful, yeah, because you call a suicide attempt. There are more suicide attempts by female, but a completed suicide would be a male. And oftentimes they've had no warnings before, it just happens.
Wow.
Because men keep things, and I'm being
But-
stereotypical,
but-
but based on experience, they keep things locked in. We don't tell you to talk about your feelings or say, I am seriously hurt and disappointed that I didn't get into SJC and I want to talk about it. While a girl will go home and cry to mom or to
Yeah, that's
anybody
absolute- yeah.
and be allowed to go through that experience.
People
How do
even-
you develop that? Because also put it in context of your relationships now. That's when you start to realize, I gotta soften a bit and perhaps let go of this hard armor that I'm wearing.
Yeah, emotionally, Marlene, I think men and women communicate very differently.
Yeah.
Actually, men don't communicate emotions very well. We can communicate anger, but we can't communicate fear or disappointment or sadness or jealousy.
I must be an anomaly.
So definitely we're at a disadvantage there. And this is partly our socialization. This is how we are grown up to be. You need to be tough. And we need to make no mistake. There are environments where you must be tough as a nail to survive. Let me be very honest. There are homes that if you don't pick up that heavyweight armor, you will die in that process. I mean, and I'm not only talking physical, I'm talking emotional as a human being. You will be completely lost. So you have to react to the environment you're in. And in cultured environments where there is exposure, where is this, children will grow up in different ways.
Can I say something?
Yeah, no.
I think men and women, yes, we're different.
Yes.
But every one of us have the same need. Now, when we're in the teenagers, it's true. Most guys don't talk. We go through a lot of problems. I remember as a teenager, I used to struggle with depression.
Wow.
You know, root of rejection.
Right.
You know, I remember one time I was doing something. I was working at St. Catherine's. I was doing something, and my sister was there, and I was walking across the court, and my very posture was hunched over, and so she called me, "Come here, I need to talk to you." And so she told me about it, and it's like, man, I didn't even realize that the things I was experiencing inside was actually affecting the way, manifesting it, you know. So I think every one of us as men needs somebody to talk to, because if you don't have an outlet,
Explode.
you're gonna have some serious problems,
Yeah.
and you won't be able to function.
You know, people
So
believe-
whether male or female.
You know, people in Belize think that if you go to see a shrink or a
therapist, yeah.
therapist, that you're crazy. And that's a main stereotype right now. If I say, well, I went to talk to my therapist right now, you have problems. People are ashamed to go and express themselves. I mean, right now in Belize, we should have a lot of people with different outlets that say, okay, I'm a therapist, or I studied to be a therapist to help you. That would help the society a lot, and we should actually inject that into our societies and have people that go around to different households, just in general as a ministry. Different households, and just sit down with these mothers and encourage them to, try to reach out to the husbands, to the kids, and try to find ways, even if through the church, if that's the case.
Well, that is my cup of tea right there, because I think, and you know what? It's unfortunate. I think that sometimes the church really kind of fails in this area. But I would say kind of. You know why I say kind of? Because not everybody is the same. Sure. Sometimes we want to paint a broad brush. Yeah. When we see any religious leader and they fall, because I'll tell you something, anybody can have a title.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody can have a title. We see it in the news. We see them doing things that are totally contrary to what they say they believe in.
Yeah, true.
You can go and study something and have theology becomes like a history subject. You know all the information, but there's no heart change. And that springs board into a deeper issue of our society, of the whole educational system, because you can you can have all the opportunity, my brother.
Sure.
Well,
You can go and study, and you can get, go to university and everything. But one of the problems we have is that we have a lot of educated people that have no moral compass. So where does the morality come in? Are we going to wait on society? Is society around us who is constantly evolving and constantly changing? One day this is okay, and then the next day it's not okay. So where do we get our moral compass from?
Well, think about this though. You know that we are more than one thing, one being. You're a father, you're a son, you're a citizen, you are a neighbor, you're a
your husband.
and we can't be great at everything. You know, and that's sometimes we think about this in a kind of idea that, oh, we need to have this. You know what? Slavery was never good. What was the morality guiding that way of thinking? And that changed. You see, so people had to adapt. People resist that change. Change is we will change over time, and we have some young fathers here. And I was there sitting in that very same spot. And your worldview is different. It's not like you plan out one day. You have these big ideas of what you want. But you know what? It's a process. Sometimes it can go in a different direction. How can you make a career path when you're 16 years old? My God, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
But it's changed. And we are a sum of many things. And in the end, maybe what you want is just to try and be a decent human being, if I want, because perfection and those are those ideas.
But that's the pressure put on men sometimes, and I'll admit that. And I want to get into this topic because it's clearly something we have to discuss. We also got a question someone called in to ask about whether men are being complacent in their role as men. You guys can tackle that in this answer. So, but I wanted to get to it because we have to talk about men as fathers. And 3 of you are fathers. Ashton, you don't have kids yet. But you will eventually. You're a husband. Talk to me about the expectations and what it's like to fulfill the role of a father. There are so many different types of fathers. From what I'm hearing from you, you guys are perhaps some of the more modern dads out there. But for many, there's a traditional role as well. And father is coupled with husband as well, or spouse in this case.
Well, let me tell you honestly, for my thing, and I think for people my generation, and my brother, and maybe my cousins, but let me talk about myself. Your family, nerd caring, providing for your family is singular. That is what you do. So the idea of fending and working and doing all those things is what that's the barometer guiding your life. Everything else is peripheral. Everything else is around. But to me, I was crystal clear that the upbringing of my family was the first and most important thing, beyond my interest for being happy and for being fulfilled.
So your soul-defining
role
is being a father.
A father. Let me go ahead, and that was the job. So clearly, it's not a role that you always have. My youngest child is 23 years old. She's gone already, so I have to evolve now to another role. And many times when you think about it's an evolution, it's a process. Life gets in the way. You know, think about working, commuting, or being gone for weeks. That can be very detrimental to your fundamental idea of providing, because things get in the way, life gets in the way. But for me, raising my kids, and somebody maybe asked that question, I think the single biggest thing that to my mind jeopardizes us as men is when you walk away from your kids. Brother, any man, to my mind, that is not intent and interested and focused on providing for their children is a failed man, in my mind.
That's a very unique position to take, because there are a lot of men that are in relationships with women, and it's not ideal for the man, and even the health, the mental stability of the man in that case. For me, I'm hurt because of where I grew up. I didn't have that close relationship with my dad, and I know, like, my first baby I had, I was like, you know what, I have to today to make sure. But then it's like you said, it's like sometimes you sacrifice your own sanity. Yeah. Because you know, the type of women we have now is different than the women. I believe the women have evolved also, right? Just as men have. And for me personally, the fact that I will not be around my girls and not being able to see them, even at a given day, is something that really, really would hurt me. And that has shifted my entire personality as an individual, because the fact that I didn't speak to my dad until I graduated bachelor's in UB. I lived with them upon 3 years, but I didn't even know where I lived. You know, and the first time he came to my house was when I was graduating, and because I didn't even give him an invitation to come. You know, so all that years that I didn't have that relationship with my dad, and I was this resentment because I was kicked out, and you know, we were fighting and a whole lot of thing, and I didn't get to speak to him. That feeling that me and my other siblings had towards my dad, I would never want my kids to have towards me, and that causes me now to even sacrifice my own being because I want, you know, my girls to have me as an option. I didn't have to go around the street trying to find things or try to figure things out. Just you come to daddy and we are find how to get. And that's the kind of support that I think every kid really, really wants, because you want to know that you could go to your daddy and get solutions, even if not solutions, point you in the right direction, you know. And that I didn't have that for years, and a lot of my friends around me didn't have that. And if I didn't have something else inside me to try to push beyond and try to be an outlier, I would have ended up just like a lot of my friends, you know, a lot of them in jail, a lot of them buried right now, you know what I mean? So that's the reality of the situation that I'm grappling with right now, because I don't want my girls to go through all of that, because no society has changed. No, you could have get beat up at school. No man, they got stab you at school. You get shut up when you reach home. So you could have survived still, but sometimes it's tough. But no, it's shifted. So I really want my babies then to see me as an option, the first person I call a daddy. You know what I mean? And that's what have changed, you know, my whole personality. But it's a sacrifice, because then at times, you know, you really have to swallow your pride, swallow all kind of thing you don't want to swallow, right? Just to try to be there for them. And that's a major sacrifice.
I have an interesting, I think my one is a different perspective. Well, for me personally, for me, that family relationship, before I got married, my number one priority was my relationship with God. Nice. Because of all of the things that I experienced when I was young, I realized that, man, if I don't get free from these things, I like I told you, I dealt with depression, and we somehow managed to the conversation back to some of the things that you were talking about sexuality, because I was exposed to pornography at a very, very young age. I was probably like maybe 3 years old, right? And that opened up a Pandora's box in my life, that I ended up dealing with a lot of stuff that a young boy should never have to deal with, all throughout my childhood, especially that time when all your hormones explode when you are a teenager. I went through a lot of issues, and those things affect you even when you enter into marriage if you don't deal with it, because a lot of young men, and hopefully I can get back to my point, I know I'm jumping, but I think it's important. A lot of young men think that, okay, they want to have sex. When they get married, okay, finally. But you know what? That's a cookie monster or some kind of monster that never gets satisfied. Honest to goodness, because I've seen some of the men out there who have the most beautiful wives and they still cheat. Yeah. So that aspect, you know. So for me, when, you know, getting back to what I was talking about.
But isn't that a part tied back to the over sexualization of the male identity?
That's what I was telling you. That connection there. So I don't agree with you.
But how do you let it go?
I don't agree with you. Well, there is, I mean, as a Christian, that is, I believe definitely in that spiritual aspect, right? It's like when you think about something, like for example, take for example cheating. Nobody cheats just like that.
Yeah, but cheating is not about love. Generally,
it is about desire.
That's what it is. Listen, just let me share this quickly. I think that maybe women misunderstand. Cheating is devastating to any relationship. Let us be honest, right? But I think many times women think that cheating has to do with love. But cheating for men generally is about sex. It's about an opportunity that you will have to decide that you will take or not. Simple as that. The opportunity will present itself. Who presents that opportunity to you? Women. Unless we're talking about some sexual violation, rape or so. I'm not talking that.
Yeah.
I'm talking the decision where that will be presented to you as a man, or you know, and it's up to you to take it or not. And I think many times it is devastating. Let me be frank and honest, and it poses risks. But many times those cheating experiences have nothing to do with love. Many times men are having
that is not comforting to the women, my brother.
I know.
That doesn't. That explanation
is the residual effects, the betrayal, the hurt, the rejection. But you know, I almost want to say that what I'm hearing from you is that we as women are raising cheaters and encouraging cheaters.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Many times. Well, think about the number of single women that are raising sons. Society hasn't essentially changed. They're playing a meaningful role in raising boys and raising girls. But it's one of those things, and I think the gentleman is absolutely right. I'm not saying that this is to be comfort, this is to be understood in the sense of, for example, let us think about the ramifications of something like that. Violence, for example, you know, that's not acceptable, that's something, but it comes from a kind of understanding that maybe we don't fully understand. Maybe we need to be more overt in our sexuality, more expressive in our sexuality.
I think we are.
Well, you would be surprised.
The society that we live in today, it's literally everywhere, and in terms of the access to sexual material and pornography is at the very fingertip.
I know, but I think when he's talking about more your own personal behavior and your own choices. But this is...
But think about this, Marlene. One of the things that as men we don't talk about, the prevalence of male erectile dysfunction. You would be surprised how staggering the numbers are for us. If you think about men's health, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and a combination of these men aren't functioning to peak when it comes to their sexuality. Their ability to
because of
sustain
underlying health issues.
Of course.
And then they don't treat it because men typically don't access health care until emergency situations.
That's true.
There's this thing in our generation that there's so many...
back up now.
There's so many females to male in Belize ratio, right? That's the main thing.
That's not the truth. Statistically, we're half and half.
Okay, well,
it's a myth.
At least it's the biggest myth in this country.
So that's like there's so many men in jail. There's so many men that love men, right? So that they like erase that. There's so many men with erectile dysfunction now, so that makes it. Right? So there's this thing, right, in the young generation that women are strained. There's a lot of females in society that are not sexually satisfied for whatever reason, and then they look to other males that probably another female already have, right? So to get assistance, and also like, it's not like basically how I live, but I'm just sharing with you guys a factual thing right now.
But this is and this is why it's men's talk, because that is something that is shared amongst men very often. That you almost help somebody out because it is 2-to-1
society,
ratio.
right?
That does not exist. We keep on saying it doesn't happen. But it is a very common thing that young men say to each other. So, okay, Ashton, let me throw it to you. Why get married so young then if this is a part of the over-sexualization that we're talking about with our male population?
For me, well, I get married because I find somebody where kind of understand me, you understand? And we kind of have the same goal. Like, if you guys don't know, my wife is Marlene Vanson, the singer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And small,
yeah, and two, we kind of, the same feel. And I don't lie to you. Before I was reckless when it got to women. I had a lot of women, and I'm not even a lie. But when I realized that, man, when I go home, I mean, you're out there, you mess with so much women, and when you go home, they're like, who do they like when you feel bad? Who do they feel? Help you when you need something. And like when I get with this woman, she introduced me to something I never had in my life, which was God.
Definitely.
My whole life, none of my family, we not really into God. We gamble, we do a lot of different things. When I meet this woman, I'm like, yo, she actually changed my life. I'm not sure, she changed my life, changed everything about who I was. You understand? And she make I feel like I actually could talk to people because I was a kind of person like I like keep things to myself. Even up to today, I still keep things to myself. The only time I come out and say stuff is on my show when I have guests and we talk and stuff like that. But I like keep things to myself, and she make I know that okay, it's okay to open up to me, to talk to me, and I actually learn what communication really is when it comes to a woman. I mean, because
Thank you, women.
yeah, you understand.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
You had that same lesson, Jonathan? Learning to
I-
communicate?
I think I'm an anomaly because I have always been like that. I've
Okay.
always been expressive and when I before I got engaged, I spoke to my wife and I told her, listen, you're going to hear my entire life story now because there's not going to be any surprise later. And I told her everything,
Nice.
everything bad that I had done, the most embarrassing things in my life that I would never ever say. I said, because I had already decided she's going to be the one.
Nice.
So I said, this is it. Take it or leave it.
Wow.
You know? So that's something, that's
Yeah.
a gift I have, you know. Praise
Yeah.
God.
Now, that's one of the challenging roles, and we talked fatherhood, but fatherhood only happens with relationships. And listen, if there are millions of books and strategies on how men and women can interact or interact differently, I just want to hear from your perspective as a Belizean man. What do you feel is perhaps the biggest misconception about men in relationships? You've all been, I think Ashton was so open and honest about his choice in his wife and what made him lead there, but there's so many misconceptions. What do you think you'd really want people to understand that is just absolutely not true about Belizean men?
Belizean man don't cheat. Not all of we cheat.
Not all men cheat.
Amen with that.
Not all
I
Belizean
agree.
man cheat.
100%.
I mean, yes, there are some that do nothing, you know. And I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to not cheat, especially these days. If you open up Instagram,
Yeah. Yeah.
woman basically they show everything these days. You walk around the street, the clothes that barely even clothes. You understand? They show everything, and I think this is a thing that woman. This talking to the woman now. I really feel like woman these days really need to respect themselves more. That like you to show every single part to your body before you even get with the man. So where you think.
No surprise.
Yeah, you understand? There's no surprise when you actually get the woman home now. You don't see everything. Everybody don't see everything. So like, what you are surprised me with, what you could do for me now, everybody don't see your whole body. You understand? So how you want a man to respect you at home but you the outer street? They show about everything. Nobody will respect you like that. If you want a good man, respect yourself first and then the man will respect you.
Yes.
But you know what the interesting thing with that?
I just gotta say your face light up that 20 years, 2 decades apart, somebody shares your perspective, right?
No, it to me it lends that whole thing about society because you're talking about the way that women dress today, but fashion changes and styles change, and we live in a society where we have a lot more feminism has come to, I think that's something out there, and a lot of women, they don't want anybody to tell them anything. This is who they are, they dress. So I am trying to reconcile those things because we as men, and I don't know if I can speak for all men out there because not everybody shares that perspective that me and my brother have, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely think that a woman that dresses modestly is very, very attractive. Yeah. Something that is attractive to me is modesty and intelligence, right? And the more skin a woman shows, like I'll give you a simple example. I was walking down, you see where Queen Street is by the police station, and I was going in the direction of Holy Redeemer. I wasn't married yet and I wasn't engaged, but I was looking. And so I was crossing the bridge, and there was a beautiful young lady coming over the bridge the same time. And as I saw her coming, I was like, I wonder, this could be a potential, right?
Yeah,
No, as she came across the bridge, she stumbled. I don't know if she saw my looks or what, but she stumbled, and when she stumbled, the biggest bad word flew out of her mouth, and I said, "Oh crap,
True, yeah.
disqualified."
Beautiful till they open mouth.
There was like I think I just see
Okay,
some of the sisters.
so I gotta say there's a preference for everyone before I'm accused later of not standing up for women.
I just want to play devil's advocate because of the women, right? And the fact that things have evolved. You mentioned it earlier, and it's not their problem if they dress how they dress. It's our problem if we react to it that way, right? So I think
I wanted to ask that. Can I just word it? Because I feel that what I'm hearing from you is that perhaps there's a progression in one area, but then, and I'm not saying men and women, I'm saying there's a progression in thought in one aspect, but then there's traditional strongholds that hold us back. Because I also say women also judge other women based on these types of things as well. So it's not necessarily a gender thing. It's that we want to move ahead, but every now and again we tell ourselves, no, but we have to stay here. We have to be the stereotypical.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like for me, I'm really against stereotype because I've literally been stereotyped all my life. Like people up to me right now, sit alongside me, they don't know I'm as intelligent as I am, as compassionate as I am, you know. All right, that's because of how they look at you. They look at you and say, oh, okay. You know, even in my workplace right now, because I'm one of the youngest persons that has management level, you know, and they look at you and they stereotype, oh, you shouldn't know what you know, you shouldn't be able to. So I've been dealing with that all my life, so that now I've shut that down. Correct. I mean, I don't take, if I see a woman expressing themselves and they're being free and they, whatever, if I'm nudist, whatever they want to do, I mean, cut their hair, whatever, I don't judge their character based on that. Because I've met some people that on the outside, tattoos, piercings, everything. And when you talk to those people, they're some of the most compassionate people you meet, some of the most insightful people that you meet. So at this point right now, even my daughter, I have girls now, and I'm said it now, if they want to express themselves in the future, I won't limit them because I spoke to a guy that really opened up my mind. I forgot his name, I wish I could give him credit for what he said. He's like, we limit the creativity of our young people in Belize. And he was like, well, he was a physics teacher, he told me, and he explained to his students, this is not me teaching to you guys, I'm showing you the reality of how things work through the physics class. And that really blew my mind because when I started to think about it, we tell them, not touch that, not do that. For the time the kids are growing up and we limit the kids from being creative, you know, and then, like you mentioned earlier, if somebody had limited you from being creative right now, you wouldn't have been the person you are. You tell the boy here, you have to go to school because I don't want to hear that, I don't want to see up on the computer, take it away from you. As a young age, seriously, that would have stopped you from being who you are now. Correct. So I have the view, guys, that if somebody is being expressive, because things change, fashion change, people change. We as men,
because you've been stereotyped. So men, you don't want to stereotype.
Correct. So men have to adapt. No, because
I mean, because we'll go back and forth with this one, but we're running out of time, and I want to get you to tackle the common misconceptions that people have about men that you would like to correct as a Belizean.
I wanted to say that,
or to at least get out there in the open.
I believe that there's this huge stereotype in the household, in society, that men shouldn't have emotions, that men shouldn't have feelings, even in relationships. Sometimes the female could be doing a whole lot of things and rant and rave, and the moment a man is about to say something or do something or be who they want to be, you don't have the right to be emotional. You don't have the right to have a soft spot, and that's what has a lot of men trying to exert themselves as masculine and want to have so many females and because you don't have the opportunity sometimes within even our own household or even in society to just have that emotional, in touch with that emotional side, that soft side. That's to me has erased. Every black you go around, everybody want to be the baddest man and the bravest man and the boldest man. Real. And if you right now you try to say, boy, you get something happen to you or you feel that way about it, you can't confide in nobody in the society. So you need to make sure that we create that platform and give men that level that they can, you know what, you could sit back and say, boy, you just tear it out if you want to cry it out, to cry it out now, or, you know, we have to start to be that for our bros around us, you know what I mean?
I'm listening, my mind is going everywhere, but I think one misconception that women have about men is that we know what we're doing. And I think we need to be I want to encourage women to, you know, the guy in their lives to say, are you sure? And many times we are, but we can't say that. We have to put a face like we. But I think that's a misconception, and if we are honest about it, it's about trial and error.
I know where I'm going.
Then along with that, you have to culture that relationship. I hear young people, and I know I was there, and the spiritual, religious, all that, been there, done all that. But at the end, relationships evolve and relationship must be cultured. It's like a fire. If you don't culture that, in Spanish they say atizar, like the fire heart to keep the wood burning, it goes out, bro.
I agree with you, brother.
So, you know, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that people are bad. It's what happens. And good people separate. Good people divorce. Good people. That's how it is. But the misconception is, well, for example, you know, that we don't know. And a lot of burden is placed on the leadership that we must demonstrate.
Yeah.
What does a young person, 23 years old, knows about leading a family, raising a family, providing? Nothing.
You know,
Figure
He's
it out
scared.
as you go along.
He will figure it out as he goes along. And it takes enormous courage. And I think sometimes that is not, maybe seen or recognized, enormous burden on young men to lead in those households.
All right, so we're going to do quick responses now, like just one sentence. One thing we can do differently today to improve the lives of the young boys growing up to men.
Sorry, me?
Yeah, anything. Just give me a quick statement.
Provide opportunities for the young.
Opportunities.
Yeah.
Who ready?
mentorship.
Mentorship.
The need to create an organization so people could take their ideas and develop the ideas.
All right, opportunities once again.
I think just allowing young boys to be, when you say be themselves, and that involves emotional connectivity, all those things that makes us human. Stop making boys into something they're not intended to be, you know.
All right. Thank you very much for your honesty, your openness. You're all great communicators, clearly, so that gets rid of one stereotype that we have. But I do appreciate it, and hopefully we'll revisit this once again and tackle some more topics. But thank you. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about Pride Week, so please stay tuned.